In the vibrant era of the early 1980s, a seismic shift was about to shake the very foundations of professional wrestling.
Vince McMahon, a visionary entrepreneur with an insatiable appetite for innovation, embarked on a daring quest to transform the fragmented landscape of wrestling territories into a national and eventually global phenomenon.
At the time, wrestling was a patchwork of over 100 independent territories scattered across the United States, each with its own unique culture and roster of stars.
Performers would toil tirelessly, crisscrossing the country in a grueling cycle of live events, often wrestling multiple times per night.
Vince McMahon, however, had a different vision. He dreamed of a wrestling empire that would transcend regional boundaries and captivate audiences worldwide.
With unwavering determination, Vince set out to lure the industry's most popular stars to his burgeoning World Wrestling Federation, WWF.
He recognized that to achieve his ambitious goal, he needed to sign the biggest name in wrestling at the time, Hulk Hogan.
Hogan, with his unrivaled charisma and thunderous power, had the potential to become the face of Vince McMahon's wrestling revolution.
Remember that night in Madison Square Garden in January 1984? That epic title clash between Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik?
Absolutely. As Hulk Hogan strode through that curtain, you could feel the electricity in the air.
It was the perfect good guy, bad guy scenario. Hogan, the all-American hero with the American flag, facing off against the hated Sheik.
The fans were on the edge of their seats, rooting for Hogan to win back our people, our country, and our belt.
Hogan fought with all his might, using every ounce of power he had, and the fans loved it.
To see our hero triumph like a hurricane, reclaiming American pride. It doesn't get any better than that.
At long last, the secret is out. The wrestling fans of the world have shed the shame and come out of the closet.
Yes, Gorilla, the Hulkamania epidemic has swept the nation. From the Rosemount Horizon in Chicago to the Spectrum in Philadelphia, fans have flocked to see the smiles on their heroes' faces.
As the Hulkster battled his foes in the ring, he became more than just a wrestler. He became a symbol of hope and strength for a generation of fans who felt like outsiders.
And now, Gorilla, as Hulk Hogan stands tall as the undisputed champion of the world, he has finally given wrestling fans the validation they have always craved.
In the realm of professional wrestling, the quest for success often hinges on the emergence of a prominent figure. Vince McMahon's father, Vince Sr., imparted the wisdom that a thriving product requires a marquee star.
But with the rise of Vince McMahon's vision, a question arose. How could this exhilarating form of entertainment capture the attention of a wider audience? What would pro wrestling become synonymous with? Enter WrestleMania.
To cross this milestone, McMahon embarked on a strategic mission to integrate his product into the fabric of popular culture, resonating with those who were yet to embrace the world of wrestling.
And there was no partnership more potent than the one forged with MTV. The collaboration became a catalyst, introducing wrestling to a new generation, transcending the boundaries of its niche following.
Cyndi Lauper, the Grammy Award-winning icon, was the catalyst for this grand adventure.
Yeah, back in the 80s, Lauper was like a pop deity. But more than just a musician, she was a symbol. She was a symbol. She was the Beyoncé, Britney Spears of her time.
Her presence provided a bridge connecting different cultures. Her music, with its number one hits and MTV videos, legitimized the WWF as a force to be reckoned with.
Before Lauper's involvement, pro wrestling was primarily a male-oriented domain. But expanding the demographics was a brilliant movie.
This gave rise to the Rock and Wrestling Connection, a golden opportunity for the WWF to soar to new heights. MTV changed the game back in the day, man. It was the new kid on the block, and it showed us just how powerful it could be to put new artists in front of viewers.
And when Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun hit the airwaves, it was like America's living rooms turned into dance parties. But what many people don't know is that the guy who played Cindy's dad in that video was a true legend, Captain Lou Albano.
And that's where the rock and wrestling era was born. Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou met on a plane and hit it off. And before you knew it, Lou was not only a wrestling icon, but a music star as well.
It kind of made sense, right? A guy with a rubber band stapled to his cheek playing the quirky dad of a punk rock singer. And Vince McMahon realized that wrestling and rock and roll had a lot in common. They were both theatrical and entertaining, so why not mix them up?
And that's how we got this bizarre mashup of a tough talking woman from Queens and the larger-than-life personalities of the WWF. In the early days of WWF, I never thought about collaborating with MTV.
But then Cyndi Lauper's manager, Dave Wolf, came along and changed everything.
Wolf was a wrestling fan as a kid, so when he met Captain Lou, they hit it off instantly.
Wolf saw the energy and excitement backstage at an Iron Sheik versus Hulk Hogan match, and it reminded him of a rock concert.
And that's when the idea was born to do something new and original. A cross-promotion between MTV and World Wrestling Federation.
It was a bold move, but it paid off big time. It brought a whole new audience to both wrestling and MTV.
Jesse, every time Hulk Hogan made an appearance as the guest video VJ, it boosted his popularity.
Absolutely, Gorilla. MTV in 1985 wasn't just a non-stop stream of teen music and outlandish antics. It was a cultural phenomenon that gave birth to the iconic slogan, "I want my MTV."
And once MTV became the go-to place for music videos, it also opened its doors to professional wrestling. WWF found a home there, giving its fans a new platform to enjoy their favorite athletes. Then around 1984, Vince McMahon realized he needed a villain to challenge his hero. He needed the ultimate heel, Roddy Piper.
Piper had made a name for himself outside the major territories as a charismatic and intense wrestler.
But with all those top stars wrestling together, Piper knew he needed something extra to stand out.
Enter Piper's Pit, a segment where Piper insulted his rivals and relished getting under their skin. It was a brilliant way to build anticipation and cement Piper as the ultimate antagonist.
While Hogan's larger-than-life personality earned him the cheers and admiration of sold-out crowds, it was Piper's raw and abrasive temperament that set him apart as one of the WWF's top villains.
What made Piper unique was that you actually felt like he was a bit unhinged. He didn't conform to the norms, always doing things differently, but he was authentic in his own way. He genuinely believed in the rightness of his actions, and that's what made it effective.
Piper's approach opened up new possibilities for the business that Vince McMahon was eager to explore, bringing the entertainment world into the wrestling arena. Well, Jesse, it seems like the seeds for this WrestleMania confrontation were sown a few weeks ago on Piper's Pit.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Cyndi Lauper was on, right?
That's right. And boy, did she make a splash.
She sure did. I mean, the crowd was stunned when they saw her. A pop singer on a wrestling show. That was unheard of.
And then Captain Lou Albano comes out and starts taking credit for finding Cyndi and making her a superstar.
Yeah, he was going on and on about how women can't accomplish anything without a man behind them.
That's when Cyndi really let loose. She started going off on Lou and the crowd went wild.
It was like a scene from a movie. Captain Lou was her father in that Girls Just Want to Have Fun video.
The fight that ensued set the stage for the first real craziness in the rock and wrestling connection.
And Cyndi Lauper wasn't done yet. She promised Lou that she would have a female wrestler for him to fight at WrestleMania.
That's right. And now we're hearing that Cyndi has a wrestler all lined up.
Who is it?
I'm not sure yet, but I'm told it's going to be a huge surprise. Cyndi Lauper told Lou Albano that she'd show him what she had. Wendy Richter, a young woman in her early 20s.
And let me tell you, Wendy Richter stood out like a sore thumb among those haggard and tired wrestlers who had been around for decades.
Yes, Jesse. Richter had a certain appeal, a freshness that drew attention. When she appeared on the scene, she quickly surpassed Moolah in popularity.
And with Cyndi Lauper as her manager, it became a case of youth versus the establishment. Two wrestlers, one representing the old guard and the other the future, were set to collide.
And what better place to do it than on MTV, the music television channel that was all the rage at the time.
That's right, Gorilla. The brawl to end it all was the perfect showcase for this epic confrontation.
When MTV and WWF joined forces for that first show, it was a game changer. It took WWF out of its regional confines and thrust it into the mainstream.
It was a marriage made in heaven, Gorilla. The combination of wrestling and music was a fantastic pairing.
Jesse, what a spectacle the brawl to end it all was at Madison Square Garden.
Indeed, Gorilla. With 20,000 rabid fans packed into the arena, the atmosphere was electric. It was complete pandemonium.
And it proved to be a ratings juggernaut for MTV.
Absolutely. Vince McMahon's gamble to use MTV as a vehicle to showcase this wrestling event paid off handsomely. The Brawl became MTV's highest-rated show at the time.
The ratings were off the charts, 10 times higher than any other segment during the day or their music video broadcasts.
This proves that wrestling has a massive appeal, and when presented in a captivating manner, it can reach a wide audience.
McMahon must be thrilled with the results. He's hoping to convert these new viewers into loyal wrestling fans.
Time will tell, Gorilla. But one thing is for sure. The Brawl to end it all has put wrestling back on the mainstream map in a...
Vince McMahon, after a rare vacation, returned with the question that would shape WWF's future.
What's our Super Bowl? Every industry has their Oscars or Grammys, but what would be WWF's grandest spectacle?
And here's a fun fact, Jesse. Do you know who coined the term WrestleMania?
No. Who was it?
It was actually one of Vince McMahon's employees, the legendary ring announcer, Howard Finkel.
Howard Finkel? How did he come up with it?
Well, he drew inspiration from two cultural phenomena of the time. Remember the Beatles and Beatlemania?
Of course. The British invasion in the 60s, right?
Yes. And then you have Hulk Hogan and his iconic Hulkamania catchphrase.
I see where he's going with this.
So, Finkel thought, if the Beatles created Beatlemania and Hulk Hogan has Hulkamania, why not create our own larger-than-life event?
And thus, WrestleMania was born.
That's right. Finkel's creative mind gave us one of the most iconic event name in sports entertainment history. When word got out that Vince was planning this WrestleMania thing, a lot of the wrestlers were like, what the heck is a WrestleMania?
Yeah, they were worried. They thought Vince might have bitten off more than he could chew, that he'd spend everything on this one big show, and if it flopped, it would be the end of the WWF. Vince's father had worked so hard to build this empire, and Vince might just throw it all away.
The attitude of Roddy Piper was fear nothing and there are no rules. So here you have Hulk Hogan selling vitamins and drinking milk, and Piper's kicking ass and taking names and getting people over to hell with coconuts.
But yet, Hulk Hogan was carrying the mail in and printing the money and becoming the flagship for the company.
Yet tension was building behind the scenes. When you talk about top contenders, Don Muraco, Bob Orton, and that no-good Roddy Piper, they all wanted the Hulk Hogan spot. That's the nature of the business, to be the #1 guy and to be the champ.
Roddy Piper at the time legitimately didn't like Hulk Hogan because he saw himself as a legend killer. And here all of a sudden Hulkamania is running wild. Remember, Roddy Piper came in from Georgia where he was the top dog and was always used to being that guy and was always more of the old school.
Here was a guy that was dismissed by Vince Sr. after his botched bagpipe segment 10 years ago and spends those 10 years with a thorn on his side to become a bigger star, as big of a star as Hulk Hogan was. Roddy Piper holds a strong opinion about Hulk Hogan. He believes that despite Hogan's success in movies like Rocky III, he lacks the true experience and skills that Piper has earned through years of hard work in the wrestling business. Piper feels that Hogan relies heavily on his signature leg drop and his "say your prayers" catchphrase, while Piper himself has a more well-rounded and entertaining style.
The ongoing rivalry between Piper and Hogan has escalated their backstage animosity as WWF expands its operations to 2 shows. Piper and Hogan have yet to cross paths. However, with the calendar turning to 1985, the company is poised to capitalize on the excitement and anticipation surrounding these 2 iconic stars as their paths are set to collide. This is sure to raise the profile of WWF and create a monumental clash of characters and ideologies.
While we had Roddy Piper not liking Hogan and Hogan becoming distrustful with Roddy, all of that going on behind the scenes was easy to put in front of the camera, so it worked.
Now, the Piper and Hogan showdown would air on MTV as the main event of February's war to settle the score.
Hey, Jesse, did you hear about the stir caused by Geraldine Ferraro's remarks about Roddy Piper?
Sure did, Gorilla. It's quite a story.
Apparently, she made some comments about Piper during her women's event in New York, saying something like, "Why doesn't he come out and fight like a man?"
Yeah, her campaign office was floored when WWF television aired it. They were worried it would damage her political career.
Interesting that it didn't seem to hurt WWF's momentum during the war to settle the score. They had a lot going for them at that time.
Absolutely. You had big names from politics, entertainment, and sports. And sitting front and center was none other than Mr. T, the hottest star on television.
The main event between Hogan and Piper was intense. They went at it like they were trying to destroy each other.
I remember Hogan hitting Piper with a clothesline, and it was like hitting a brick wall. Piper just wouldn't budge.
It was a brawl for the ages. 2 guys fighting for the spotlight, and it all felt so real. Now, Hulk Hogan getting a clean pinfall or submission would have been the most satisfying way to conclude the match. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah, Roddy Piper had this old school mentality to protect himself. That's why back then he didn't want to put Hulk Hogan over, and that's why the finish was screwed up.
Typically, a disqualification in a match with that form of storytelling leaves a very, very unclear, unsatisfying closure to that story.
Hogan was the face of the business, but here you had everybody butting heads.
Yet, WWF had MTV on their side. New demographics, new kids, new audience, plugged right in.
It was just like throwing big tanks of gas on the fire.
And the WWF brought in Mr. T, who was an enormous star, a household name as an actor, and a bona fide celebrity.
And this was all to boost the rivalry between Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper.
Exactly. The combination of wrestling and celebrity worked because it featured the most popular elements of both worlds.
And it became the starting point for the transformation of Hollywood into professional wrestling rather than professional wrestling trying to imitate Hollywood.
Despite the inconclusive ending, with Mr. T interfering and Hogan getting disqualified, the fans loved it. It registered a strong 9.0 rating for MTV. And with the unfinished business between Hogan and Piper, a rematch was inevitable.
You got it, Gorilla. And this time, the stakes would be even higher. McMahon would bet his entire company on the outcome at WrestleMania.
That's right, Jesse. The Hogan-Piper rivalry headlined the biggest event in WWF history. And with the personal animosity between them, it was sure to be an unforgettable encounter. The rise of Mr. T in American pop culture was a lightning bolt. Nobody else could command the spotlight like he did back then.
Hogan had a connection with Mr. T from Rocky III, and they hit it off. But there were a lot of hearts burning among the other wrestlers. Mr. T's personality rubbed some people the wrong way.
Especially Roddy Piper. He couldn't stand Mr. T.
Hogan welcomed the Hollywood star with open arms, but Roddy's old school mindset clashed with it. He believed in protecting the sanctity of the wrestling business.
Piper's verbal attacks only fueled the fans' desire to see WWF's hot new tag team take their revenge on the company's top villain. So, once Vince McMahon got Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T involved, everything started to snowball.
Yeah, like a bunch of dominoes falling one after the other.
Next thing you know, Muhammad Ali is showing up, then Liberace, and even Billy Martin.
It was like the biggest party in town. Everyone wanted to be a part of it.
It was definitely shaping up to be the most prestigious event to be seen at or to be a part of. So, at the time of WrestleMania, Vince was trying to think of how can he reach fans in the biggest way possible.
That's when he used closed circuit.
A form of television, which basically means that you would go to an arena or a theater to watch big giant television screens of what was happening somewhere.
Now, Vince McMahon Jr. had dabbled in various promotions utilizing this technology with closed-circuit television from the evil Kootenai Snake River Canyon broadcasts that bombed terribly.
Closed-circuit television was the only delivery system to get WrestleMania out to the masses, but also to do it live, have a gate, and generate revenue from that gate.
It was as if you were running a live event simultaneously in over 100 locations across the country.
So you're asking a lot of people to go to these theater locations, sit and watch television with all these other people.
Many people thought this thing won't work, and Vince has absolutely lost his mind.
However, it takes crazy people to come up with these ideas and bring them to fruition and make them a reality.
Nobody had utilized it in this grand way before, and Vince became the ringleader with this vision that pushed everybody to make these moves.